other side of the equation. How 56 million death records found the void pole. And why the sun drives both. If the butterfly people were real, something had to be killing people too. We went looking for it. I kept the 56 million records open on my second monitor for 3 weeks. The rows of death dates blurring into a static hum that kept me awake past 3 a.m. The same hour most of them stopped breathing. In the months after writing about the butterfly people of Joplin, I kept returning to a problem I'd left unaddressed. The first article proposed that extreme atmospheric energy events can produce coherent plasma structures. Organized electromagnetic phenomena that human nervous systems perceive as luminous winged protective beings. I used Sitovich's DNA-like plasma helicas, Sandulovich's self-replicating plasma cells, and McFadden's electromagnetic theory of consciousness to build a chain from tornado physics to children reporting angels that didn't require anything supernatural. But I'd only described one pole of the framework. If coherent plasma represents one end of the spectrum, organized, luminous, protective, then the framework demands the opposite. Something incoherent, dark, lethal, not a metaphor. A measurable, predictable, epidemiologically traceable phenomenon that kills people under specific physical conditions. I wanted to know if it existed, so I ran 56 million death records against the sun. This is what I found. In 2011, during a violent EF5 tornado in Joplin, Missouri, multiple children independently reported seeing luminous winged beings shielding them from the flying debris. Amidst total physical devastation, the reports of these protective butterfly people were so consistent among the wreckage that they became a documented part of the disastrous history. In 1981, a Hmong refugee named Lee Tong Lor went to sleep in his apartment in Portland, Oregon, and didn't wake up. He was 22 years old. The autopsy found nothing wrong with him. The coroner noted his face was calm, no struggle, as if he'd just stopped mid-breath, no rictus, no fight, just the silence of a system that forgot to keep going. He was not the first. He was not the last. Between 1977 and 1992, at least 117 Hmong men, young, recently resettled in the United States, with numbered diagnosed cardiovascular disease, died in their sleep. Far away from any storm, in perfectly still, dark bedrooms, a silent force has stopped the hearts of healthy young men while they sleep. In the 1980s, healthy Hmong refugee men began dying in their sleep at an extraordinary rate. Across cities like Portland, Chicago, and Seattle, similar deaths accumulated over the years. Young men, often healthy, often asleep, no obvious cause, no visible struggle. Again and again, the files ended the same way, undetermined. Their culture had its own explanation long before American medicine entered the conversation. Dabsog, the night crusher. A presence said to sit on the chest during sleep and stop the breath. Families even nailed windows shut, convinced something entered through the glass. Medical examiners and psychologists categorized both the Joplin visions and the midnight deaths as trauma-induced. The butterfly people were seen as hallucinations triggered by the terror of the storm, while the deaths were attributed to the severe psychological stress of refugee displacement. And no doubt stress mattered, but it could not explain the precise timing, the specific age band, or the suggestion of a genetic vulnerability linked to cardiac function. The mainstream explanation wasn't necessarily wrong, it simply didn't explain enough. If we look past the psychological explanations, a different possibility emerges. These aren't just metaphors for fear. They appear to be physical realities occurring at opposite ends of the same environmental spectrum. The theory demanded symmetry. If extreme atmospheric energy could generate organized, luminous phenomena perceived as protective, then the same system should also have an opposite pole. Incoherent, dark, and destructive. To find a physical link, an investigation was launched to compare 21 years of CDC mortality data against the history of the Earth's geomagnetic environment. The search processed over 56 million death records, a massive national mortality dataset spanning 2 decades. Filtered for cardiac arrest and sudden collapse, researchers identified over 824,000 unexplained sudden deaths that matched the mysterious profile of the Hmong victims. Enough to ask whether this night-side pattern moved in step with something larger. These cases centered on a handful of cities and occurred almost exclusively in the quiet hours between midnight and 6 a.m. This concentration suggests a specific environmental driver, one that becomes active only under certain conditions. That driver is the planetary geomagnetic index known as the KP index. It's essentially a master dial reading out how much the Earth's magnetic shield is being buffeted by the solar cycle. A high KP reading indicates an energized, thick magnetic shield, the plasma state. A low KP reading means the shield is thin, quiet, and depleted, the void state. When the monthly deaths were merged with the KP index, a clear answer emerged. Unexplained sudden deaths skyrocket strictly during the quiet sun of low KP periods. As geomagnetic activity rises, expected death counts fall. The model produced a statistical result so stark that you'd see it by chance only once in 60 billion trials. The interpretation is straightforward. Quiet sun, more deaths. Active magnetosphere, fewer. Across the framework, entity character tracks coherence. While the lethal night crusher events happen in the low-energy void, entity sightings like the Joplin butterfly people occur at the opposite extreme, during periods of intense electromagnetic energy. The sun is effectively the master dial for human coherence, driving an 11-year cycle that governs both the protective visions in our skies and the silent cardiac failures in our beds. But how does a magnetic field interface with a human heart or a child's vision? Mechanistically, the answer lies in semi-theory, which suggests our brains and hearts are causal electromagnetic oscillators. As a 2019 Caltech study establishes, the human brain has a measurable sensitivity to geomagnetism. Our nervous systems aren't just chemical, they are tuned to the Earth's magnetic background. When that environmental reference signal drops during a solar minimum, the biological field loses its anchor. For many, this void crash results in sleep paralysis and the perception of dark, heavy entities. But for those with a specific genetic vulnerability, the impact is far more severe. The loss of environmental coherence causes the cardiac ion channels to fail, leading to the sudden, unexplained deaths recorded by the CDC. We require a constant, stable electromagnetic handshake with the planet just to maintain our baseline rhythm. If the Earth's field is a necessary anchor, we should be able to see what happens when we remove it entirely. In the 1990s, Soviet scientists placed subjects inside Kozyrev mirrors, aluminum chambers designed to reduce the local magnetic field by 600 times. Stripped of the Earth's magnetic signal, 68% of subjects reported seeing the observers, luminous, interactive beings. By removing the magnetic field's background static, the brain became sensitive enough to detect organized electromagnetic structures normally hidden. The mirrors removed the noise to reveal the signal, while the Joplin tornado flooded the environment with so much intense energy that the signal simply overpowered the background noise. In both extremes, the human nervous system is perceiving the same underlying electromagnetic environment. This is the plasma void polarity framework. Solar maximums energize the shield, producing auroras and protective visions. Solar minimums deplete it, bringing the lethal quiet of the void. We have to stop viewing the environment as a passive background. It is an active input that provides the stabilizing signal for our internal biological software. We are biological receivers. From the protective lights in the heart of a storm to the silent collapse in a midnight bedroom, we are more connected to the rhythms of our star than we ever dared to imagine.